So, 8 badges out of the way, now we're free to go and challenge the Elite Four. So I mentioned earlier, all our slaves really need to be dead because that Camerup's knows Roar. If we still had a slave that was still alive, we would use that PC beside the gym and deposit it, and then we would have to take it out at the end. So here we're just gonna use a repel in this menu. We're also gonna teach dive to Horsey. So you can see why we chose Horsey in this run, because Horsey learns, can learn all 3 water HMs. We're also going to be reteaching Brick Break to Hawlucha. We're going to be teaching that over Rain Dance. We're not going to be using Rain Dance again. Rain Dance was a one-time use, or in this case 2. And because we have Swords Dance now, we actually get quite a bit of power by using 1 Swords Dance and then Brick Break. So it's almost the same, almost as good power as using Hone Claws and High Jump Kick. So it does the trick. We're also reattaching the Lucky Egg as well. We want to get as much experience possible towards the end. And here again we got lucky and dodged the guy on the bike. So for this next little segment we're going to be doing a lot of surfing and diving, and I think there's a waterfall as well potentially. So we're going to hear Horsey's cry for a little bit. Again, the reason why we choose Horsey, remember earlier in the run I picked up a free Bellsprout from the guy in the lab. You do pick up, if I didn't choose Horsey, if I chose, say, Magby, I could get Horsey as that second Pokemon. And Magby actually does the first fight faster than Horsey does. However, Jake's Pokemon will change, so Jake will end up with a Horsey. He'll choose a Horsey as his starter. And we don't have that type advantage over Kingdra as we would over Victory Bell. So that's the reason why we choose Horsey as the starter. So this section of the run's not super exciting. We're just going to be rappelling, surfing, and diving to get ourselves towards Victory Road. So we're just going to blaze through this town here and get into Victory Road. So Victory Road, we have a lot of mandatory fights, so if there's anything important to point out, I will do so. But most importantly, I'm going to be using Swords Dance a lot here, just to beef up my attack. I believe I was supposed to set up a Swords Dance on the Golem in order to be able to one-shot this guy. So that was a slight error. This part's a little scary. This scientist guy kind of runs randomly around, so we have to wait for him to move. It's also important to note that I replaced Rain Dance with Brick Break, and because I was on forced heal after Miranda, I can only restore 5 Brick Breaks. So I'm going to need to use a Max Ether pretty soon after, so I'll be doing that at the end of this fight. Interestingly, moves learned in battle, even though you may have used up all the PP of the move you're replacing, you get all the PP of the new move. But if you teach it via TM, you don't actually get that benefit. A little more surfing and diving action here. Here I don't set up because the Cryogonal can do quite a bit of damage, so I just elect to kill it straight away, and then set up on the following. Actually, no, in this case I don't. I could alternatively set up on the Electrode and then allow it to explode. So I think in this fight I'm actually supposed to set up, because Brick Break wouldn't have killed that Scazoran in one hit. So I believe I'm supposed to set up on either Aerodactyl or Electrode. Fight is a little bit tricky, so I'm going to heal the full and save. So here I need to set up an X accuracy and also a Swords Dance. This Exatu knows Sword Power, Ominous Wind, and Power Swap. We don't really want to see Power Swap, because then he takes our attack boosts away. And unfortunately, Ominous Wind has the chance of raising all of the stats of the opponent. And because of that, I wasn't able to one-hit with my attack, and also because its stats all got boosted, I died. Because Stored Power takes all of the stat boosts and boosts the attack. So I had to reset there. That was really unlucky a fight. I'm not too sure if it swaps my accuracy boost, but in this case I have to use Swords Dance again until he stops using Guard Swap. So now he'll die in one hit. This Rotom is Electric Ghost, so the only move we can use is Rock Slide, so we have to make sure our attack is boosted here, because that Rotom can do some damage with Discharge. And everything else dies fairly easy. So here we're going to go take a little detour. We're going to pick up another rare candy. So if you recall earlier, I picked up a couple rare candies on one of the routes. I'm going to want to use these rare candies in the late game, because it means I just save extra experience. So the rare candies are more useful at higher levels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fight a bunch of trainers, and I'm going to wait until I'm at... I've just recently reached a new level before I use the candies to make the most of them. In this run, it'll actually happen right before I fight the last, it'll go to the last 3 fights of the run. So I won't quite hit it on this fight, and then the next fight I won't hit it as well. Or actually, maybe here I actually overshoot it, and that's why I don't do it here. Yeah. This guy's the most has the most disturbing dialogue in the whole run. Well, here I actually candy. I can save the candies till later, but I elect to use them here. But anyway, this NPC has the worst dialogue in the entire game. I'm going to cut you. Gets me every time. This fight's a little bit risky because I have to use a rock slide without an accuracy boost. And this Frostlass can kill me with Blizzard, so I save here, just to be safe. Because the Vileplume knows status moves, and we don't really want to be dealing with that, so... Your spleen is my nourishment, is his closing dialogue. Okay, we'll break up the monotony of the fighting with some soothing underwater music. So that was a very unlucky range there on Slowking. Normally it dies in one shot. I got a little unlucky. So I saved this fight. This fight isn't that bad, actually. This Lopunny is quite interesting. You do have to set up. It knows Charm, so it can lower my attacks, which it does here, so I have to keep using Swords Dance until it stops. It also knows Bounce, which is a super effective flying type move, which it uses right here. The best thing it can use is, I can't remember what the move is called, but it essentially kills the Lopunny, and then it heals the next Pokemon coming in. I think it's Healing Wish. That's the best possible situation. I have gotten Charmed like 4 times in a row there. Super annoying. So normally it's after this fight that I candy, so I would actually have all the experience I need to then candy up. So there's a few puzzles coming up here. So a little section with no fights. So once we surface here, head up this waterfall. We'll be in the first puzzle area. So in this game we haven't had any really ice puzzles yet, so here's the ice puzzle. Interestingly, you can get encounters on all of these tiles. So I've actually had repels run out in the middle of the ice. I saved there, but if you run across the top row of tiles, that trainer can't see you. So you don't, it's a pretty safe pass. One more quick ice puzzle here. So if you fall down the holes, you actually get warped to the beginning of the puzzle. But if you fall down the holes in this little puzzle here, you actually get warped to the beginning of that little puzzle, so it's not too bad. This room here has invisible walls, so there's a very specific route that I take. So it is a little bit tedious. You can see there's 3 trainers coming up there. So that's Jake and 2 of his swag grunts. Unfortunately, these 3 fights must all be fought back to back, so you can't heal or save in between any of them. So we're going to do a few things on this next menu just to prepare for these 3 fights. We're firstly going to restore our Brick Break PP because we need a lot of Brick Breaks in this fight. We need probably 10 or 11 of them. We're going to equip a Prism Berry, and and again, this is because Jake's lead is a Klefki, which has Swagger, and so again, very similarly to before, we're going to hopefully take the attack boost from the Swagger, and then the Prism Berry will heal the Confusion, and then we're good to go. I think in this run, it didn't go as well. He didn't use Swagger, so he's not guaranteed to use it. So Jake's 2 grunts, they each have 4 Pokemon. All of them die to 1 Brick Break each. So it's some just pretty slow going here. The next guy has 4. His 4 also all die on the hit to Brick Break, but he has Tyranitar, and Tyranitar has Sandstream, which wastes a lot of time. There's no really other way of getting around it. but it's important to note that you don't go into the Jake fight with full health. I lose a little bit of health from the sandstorm, so you take 3 sets of sandstorm damage. So you lose about 50 health going into the fight, roughly. So one left here. So for the Jake fight again, we're going to be hoping that he uses Swagger turn 1, because then we get the attack boosts we need to kill all of his Pokemon in one hit, and we get the confusion out of the way. He does very often use Substitute, which wastes a lot of time, but it's not really the end of the world. The strat does change a little bit there though. So here, because he used Substitute, I'm just going to go ahead and... that time he missed Swagger. So I'm just going to go ahead and use Brick Break continuously until he dies. It would have been really good if that Swagger had hit, because then I wouldn't need to set up. So I need to set up on the Jirachi in order to kill it in one hit. It knows Psychic, which can do quite a bit of damage. So the safest thing is obviously if left key uses Swagger and hits. So everything else goes down in one hit. The Aggron can have Sturdy though, which is his, I believe, his second last Pokemon. Here I decide to, because I'm really ahead of my PB, I decide to heal, because if he does have Sturdy, he can do quite a bit of damage. So critical Iron Tail would have killed. It's definitely the right play, just because he did have Sturdy. That's Jake down to the last time in this run. So after Jake we have 5 fights left. The Elite Four plus the champion. So while we're here, we're gonna deposit a couple of slaves. We're going to deposit 2 of them, because they take time in the Hall of Fame. We do want to keep 2 slaves alive, because there is a chance we could die in one of the fights, and we would need to revive a Pokemon, because it's faster than just resetting. So it's a little bit safe. You could go in with no slaves, but it's quite risky to do that. We're also going to heal Brick Break PP again, so we used 13 of them on Jake and his grunts. We're also going to be equipping the Wide Lens. We bought that a little earlier. We haven't got a chance to use it yet, but here we're going to, in the Elite Four, we're going to be using a lot of Rock Slides, and obviously Rock Slide can miss, so we need to set up these, set up the accuracy without having to use an item, and use a turn to heal to improve the accuracy. So the Wide Lens serves quite a good purpose here. And Swords Dance does a pretty good job of just getting our attack to where it needs to be as well. So the only setup we need is Swords Dance for the most part. So first, trainer's Tobias. He specializes in Dark-type Pokemon, for the most part. He does have a number of others. So his lead is a Zoroark, which has a focus sash, so we have to use 2 attacks to kill it. It also knows Night Daze. Night Daze is a pretty bad attack. It has a chance to lower our accuracy, which could be quite catastrophic in this fight because we have to hit a Rock Slide on a flying type Pokemon, and if we miss that, then it's pretty bad. So that's the Haunch Crow here. Because we have the Wide Lens equipped, we're pretty much guaranteed to hit all our Rock Slides. And the rest of them all go down in one hit pretty easily. So just getting past the Zoroark without getting an accuracy drop, you're pretty much good to go from there. And that's Tobias down. So in this run, actually, at this point, you can see my splits. I was on pace to break 4 hours. However, we had a horrendous next fight for Corlett. So Corlett is an electric-type trainer, so as you can imagine, we are at a type disadvantage. We also do need to set up in this fight. So I do save and heal the full, but his last Pokemon ended up walling me quite a bit in this run. I think I had to reset 3 times before I finally decided on a different strat. So first I have to set up a Swords Dance on Lantern. Lantern knows Discharge and Hydro Pump. It mostly uses Discharge. My special defense is good enough, he won't be able to two-shot me. So I am able to set up 2 Swords Dances, no problem. And then I can kill him with Brick Break. So the 2 Swords Dances are enough to take out all the Pokemon in this fight. But there's one issue with his last Pokemon. So Galvantula, we need to use Rock Slide. So again, the Wide Lens is helping us out here. Corlet's last Pokemon is a Magnezone, so we do have a type advantage over it, but it has the potential to have Sturdy, and in this case, it did. It also knows Zap Cannon, which has 50% accuracy, and of course he hits. So he's 50% to have Sturdy and 50% to hit with Zap Cannon, so that's a 25% chance. So firstly, I try to swap in Noibat and Heal. Because I'm so deep into the fight, this is probably the fastest thing I could do. He, of course, then heals. So what we need to do when we come back in with Hawlucha is to hit him with Wing Attack, and then hit him with Brick Break. And he hits me again with the Zap Cannon here. And that kills me in one hit. So there I reset. So the strat I do now, it's going to come up in a few minutes when I end up doing about 3 or 4 resets. This is going to take about 4 more minutes to win this fight. But what I do instead, which is a much safer play, even though Magnezone isn't guaranteed to have Sturdy, when he does, it can be quite problematic. So what I do in future is I actually will be setting up X Special Defense on the Lantern, 2 of them, and then set up the 2 Swords Dances, and then before I kill Lantern, I heal to full. And so I have enough HP, and I have enough Special Defense, so that if Magnezone does hit me with Zap Cannon, it won't kill me in one hit. Obviously, if it criticals, it will. Ideally, it would not have Sturdy, and then I would hit it and kill it in one hit. But if it did have Sturdy, I would fail to kill it. He would use Zap Cannon, I would tank the Zap Cannon, then correlate with heal to full. I would use Wing Attack to lower his HP a little bit, and then finish him off with Brick Break. Which is normally the strat. So if Zap Cannon had missed that first time, I would have just Wing Attacked and then Brick Breaked because I'm faster. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. We'll just watch me get walled by Magnezone again. So this fight cost me the sub, or close to, or possibly sub 4 hour run. So I end up losing about 10 minutes. Or 7 minutes, rather. And here healing again is, as we saw earlier, is pointless because Magnezone is guaranteed to kill me with Zap Cannon. Now, annoyingly, he misses Zap Cannon on Noibat. Which is kind of awful. The Brick Break was a mistake there, I should have used Wing Attack. So this is the last reset. So I actually decided to switch to using X Special Defense after I Swords Danced once. Normally I would use the X Special Defense first. So like I mentioned earlier, the new strat that I decided to do was set up the 2x Special Defense and Swords Dance twice on the Lantern. Heal to full, and luckily he used Aqua Ring. But now I can go ahead and I should be okay. So again, he has Sturdy. Because I used 2x special defense, he does about 160 health. So I just have to make sure that I take less than 120 on Lantern, which is fairly doable after the 2x special defense. And finally, that's Corlett down. So the next Elite Four member, as if we remember from earlier in the run, is Morgan. She uses Water-type Pokemon. So we don't really have a type advantage, like a strict type advantage, but we do have an advantage over some of them. We say here we're going to switch our item to the Expert Belt. This is a really, really important item to use here. Because we need to be able to one-hit a couple of Pokemon early without setting up on them, because they do a lot of damage. So Morgan's first Pokemon is a Swanna. Swanna is a water flying type. It knows a very powerful flying type move. I think it knows Hurricane, which is very, very powerful. So we have to hit a non-accuracy boosted Rock Slide, and the Expert Belt gives us a little bit of an attack boost so that we hit that guy in one hit. But more importantly, the Expert Belt allows us to one-hit this Walrein with Brick Break. So Walrein is Water-Ice type. It knows Blizzard and can one-hit us from full. So the Expert Belt gives us enough of an attack boost to be able to one-hit it. And then we can finally start setting up on this Jellicent here. So Jellicent will usually lead with Rain Dance, but this time it used Shadow Ball, which is actually really good. And it also used Hydro Pump, which also missed. So usually it uses Rain Dance and then Hydro Pump, so I got a little lucky there. And then with the 2 Swords Dances up, I can then one-hit everything else in this fight. So I had a really good Morgan fight, but I had a really, really terrible Corlett fight. So that's a little bit of a drag. Her last Pokemon is a Crawdaunt. It has a Mega Stone and can Mega Evolve, and it knows Aqua Jet. If the Rain Dance is up, Aqua Jet can do a fair bit of damage, so we want to make sure our health is pretty good going into Crawdaunt. We got a little lucky because the Rain Dance didn't come up, and we didn't take a lot of damage from Jellicent. So we're able to just go ahead and take him down in one hit. And that's Morgan out of the way, so 2 fights to go. So the next trainer is Wilson. He specializes in dragons. But fortunately, most of the dragons in this fight have a secondary type, which we can handle really easily with the attacks we have. So again, heal to full, use Ether, and we're going to set up the wide lens again on our Hawlucha. And save. This fight is fairly safe, nothing too bad could happen here. So the first 3 fights are all worse than this one. In fact, this fight and the last fight are probably the safest fights. So he leads with a Flygon, which is Ground Dragon. So we're going to set up a couple Sword Stances here. We want to see Hyper Beam turn 1, because then we get a free turn again. So we'll set up 2 Sword Stances, and then we go ahead, and we should be able to one-shot everything in this fight. With either Rock Slide or Brick Break. Here we see some crazy Cyborg Dunsparce Pokemon. We'll see a little more of these crazy Pokemon in the Sigil Hall speedrun as well. Dragonite can be a bit of a problem. It doesn't always die to Rock Slide. Usually it does. But Dragonite's got pretty good defense. So I've seen it not die after 2 Sword Stances. So very often I'll just do the 3rd Sword Stance to be safe. And Wilson's big secret, which, first time I played this game, I totally guessed that he is my father. So I think going into the fight, I guessed the secret was that he's the father. So that's kind of an interesting turn of events, but doesn't really mean much for this run. So we have one fight to go, which is Aria, which is our mother. This fight, there's a few changes, depending on Sigil Hall or Laser Plateau. In this fight, I just heal with Full Restore, and then if I've taken a lot of Brick Break PP loss, I would heal that off. In Sigil Hall, I actually put the Lucky Egg on here, because the Wide Lens isn't necessary for this fight. I don't use any Rock Slides. And I do need that extra experience because I do continue on after this fight. So her lead is a Golurk. We need to set up 2 Sword Stances on it. It knows Curse. So what we do here, if it uses Curse at all, we need to switch out. This is the reason why I bring the extra slaves. Is because Curse does so much damage and we can't afford to heal at all during this fight. So we need to actually set up again. There's just too many Pokemon, we'll take too much damage from the Curse. Very unluckily, it used Curse a 2nd time. And that's very rare. Usually it just uses it once, and then it starts using Nightshades. So at that point I reset. I can switch in my 2nd slave, but now that that Golurk is at full health, there's nothing stopping it from using Curse again. So that was a little unlucky. So I think that's the only reset I do for this fight. I think the 2nd time around it goes really, really well. Actually, never mind. So the best case scenario is it doesn't use Curse at all, and you set up the 2 Sword Stances, and then you go ahead and sweep. So there we got Nightshade. Get the second Swords Dance off. If he doesn't curse here, then we're good to go. And he didn't, so everything's great. So now we're +4 attack. We can just sweep this whole fight. So she's got the 3 legendary dogs. The Suicune dies in 1 hit. That's the toughest one to take down. The Suicune is the reason why we use 2 Swords Dances. Everything else is a little more frail. It's important to also note that the 3 dogs have pressure as their ability, so if you have low Brick Break PP going into this fight, you can actually run out mid-fight, which is not great. So 2 of the pokes I don't need to use Brick Break on, but I just choose to because it's easier to use the same move over and over again. So the Entei I could use Rock Slide instead, but because I have the Brick Breaks to spare, I go ahead and use it here. And the Osito, which is some crazy Ditto cyborg type thing. I could use Wing Attack on this, but again, I use the Brick Breaks to spare, so I'll go ahead and use those. And that's it. That's the end of the run. There's just the Hall of Fame sequence coming up, and that's when the full time is. So after the Hall of Fame sequence, there's I think we'll see it a little bit here because there's no credits. It just takes you straight to the next section of the run for the Sigil Hall stuff. So there's that. If you're interested in checking out that run, it is on my YouTube channel. I will be doing commentary over the Sigil Hall portion of that run at some point in the future. But for now, that's it for the commentary for Pokemon Omicron. Hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, that's it. That's Pokemon Omicron, Quasar Plateau %.